everyone, welcome back to RTS and welcome back to Summer Space Shape Up, and today is week 8 and it's all about the color. Yes, we are going to simply talk about all of those beautiful components and supplies we have in this hobby that bring color to our pages, our cards, and our projects. So for week 8, let's get right to it, and we're going to talk about our maintaining stage. How are you maintaining things? And if you're struggling with maintaining something, please post that in the comment section below, and I can guarantee you one of my lovely subscribers will have some answer or some help or lend an ear, because we've all been there, truly. And again, I want to reiterate this every week. If all you do is keep this area clean and you keep scrapping over the summer, then you have won the game of Summer Space Shape Up. Truly, truly. And so then what we talked about last week, which was just a few days ago, was our alphas and our adhesives and our layouts. That'll keep you busy all summer just with that. But then also too, we talk about addressing photos. And so I have listed, have you printed any photos lately? Have you shared any photos lately? And have you downloaded your photos lately? Yes. So sometimes when you are wanting to get your space in shape, don't forget that photos in a digital sense is part of that organizing, even though it's not literally in your space, but the digital organization of photos is definitely a category to address. And sometimes you're just in that frame of mind, you want to do something on the computer. Yes, doing your photos is one of them. So definitely share photos. Ask your family to share photos. I ask my family every single week, photos please, photos please. And I'm very fortunate that my family shares photos usually every day with me. So that's great. And I will tell you, the more you ask, they'll either get tired of it or they'll start sending you photos, truly. And so then for what we're going to talk about today is items that just have color, and color. And I pulled, I think, basically all of my supplies that I use for color. And we're going to talk about how to maybe use those items more. And I'm going to show you how I have mine stored. And I will basically tell you that every one of these items that I have listed for color supplies, and if you get the PDF, go head over to Deborah's Facebook group. In the file section, you'll see this when I have markers and chalks. And I'll go over this list here. That I basically have every one of those stored in a photo box. That's basic. I don't have a lot of this category, but I have enough of it, and I just simply use photo boxes. So we'll talk about that. And so I guess we'll just get right to it, because I would say when we talk about this group, you can do it one of two ways. You consider this as an entire group and you just work with anything with color, or you look at each individual product separately. So I have markers, pens, embossing powders, mist sprays, glitter, paste, glues, chalks, inks, ink pads, Nuvo drops, stickles, liquid pearls, paints, mixed media items. And in the mixed media world, I'm sure there's a ton more of products you could list. I'm not into the mixed media part of things. But if you are a mixed media gal and you have a great tip when storing a certain product in mixed media, please list below, because I do have people who tell me they don't comment on my videos, but they read every comment. So please share your ideas. You never know what that one little tip you give someone, how it can really help them, truly. So for me, I would say when you're dealing, if you're dealing with this type of color supply as a whole, purge anything you don't like, purge anything that doesn't float your boat, because I will tell you, we go in cycles. So there are some things in this category that I have purged over the years. Mr. Huey Sprays was one of them. October Afternoon Sprays was another one. Heidi Swap Color Shines was another one. I didn't buy a lot of those, but the ones I did buy, I ended up purging and giving them away. I just don't care for them. So I think I'm down to, for mixed media, I'm down to this modeling paste and this glitter mist. That's about the sprays. Yeah, sprays and paste, that's about all I have, because this is something you learn. And I'm getting ready to embark on 24 years of scrapbooking, which I think that's awesome that I've stuck with anything for 24 years. but you learn things about yourself. And so mixed media and getting inky and getting messy, that side of this hobby is just not, it's not my personality. It's not something I enjoy because I don't want to have to clean up messes. That is, I do too much of that in my other part of my life. I don't want to clean up a mess. So it has to be something that is a personal preference. For some people, they're really heavy into mixed media and then they're not into the tool part, or maybe they don't enjoy pattern paper because they're creating their own pattern paper. So it has to be your decision, is what I'm saying. There's no wrong way. And just because I don't have it doesn't mean it's not a great product. It's just for my personality and in my style, it just doesn't fit. And I've had to learn the hard way, stop looking at that. Oh, and all those Distress inks by Tim Holtz. At one time, up until a point, I owned every color. I had to end up donating. Oh, I purged them to my sister. And there was another product. It's just something you learn about yourself. Inking is not something that I do because, again, it's in that mixed media format. I just don't enjoy that. I like to see it, but me personally, I don't do it. So when it comes to this color supply, my long-winded what I was trying to say is that you mixed media gals, you're going to have a lot more of this. So you have to determine where you're going to put these because they all come in different sizes and shapes. So I'm only going to show a sampling of what I have, but there's a lot more to this. Okay, so I would say, and I think this is what I started to say, whenever you are addressing this group, you can look at it as a whole and say, okay, I have this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Maybe I need to purge a couple of these categories because I'm no longer using it. Maybe it might be paint, and maybe it might be your glitter mist, or maybe it's your Nuvo drops, or maybe it's your paint or your embossing powders, embossing powders. Maybe there's an entire category you can purge rather than just one or two. Okay, then you can also approach it that you're going to take each category individually and look at them individually. And so, like for your markers and your pens, you may simply just work on that this week. Next week you'll pick your stickles, and then next week you pick your ink pads, things like that. Because when it comes to this category right here of our color supplies, every single scrapbooker or card maker or crafter is going to have a different level of inventory. I don't have very many of these. I would say I have about 4 photo boxes of stuff, and that's all I have in this group of color supplies. And so you may have a lot of markers, but you don't have any paints, or you might have a lot of paints and no markers. So this is all different. But I will say, as you're going through all this, purge the ones you don't like, purge what is no longer usable because things dry up. We all know that. Okay, and then of course, as you're going through this, not only as you're purging, see where the gaps are, see what colors you're missing. Maybe you had intended to get it and it was out of stock. You know, make a note in your scrappy notebook on your wish list. I need purple Nuvo drops. I need some yellow paint, that type of thing. So as you're purging, do some pre-planning of future purchases. And then of course, you know, as I'm going to say, rethink everything, because we have these grandiose ideas. We see Jennifer McGuire or we see Nicole Spohr use something, and then we have to have it. You know what I'm talking about. So I want to talk about something, and then I'm going to just show you how I have mine, because level 1 is just gathering them. Level 2 is finding a permanent home for them in a nice container. And then level 3 is really, really thinking. Are you really going to use them? Are you really enjoying them? Is this something that really fits your style? For me, I had to face that several times. Mist and sprays don't fit my style of scrapbooking, and just Tim Holtz Distress anything doesn't fit my style. So I had to rethink, and then I had to just swallow that pill that, yes, I had spent money on all that stuff, and then I just got it out of my space. It was a happy day because I knew it was going to someone who would enjoy that. So Tiffany Spalding has said that many times. When you have to make a decision of purging, find someone who will enjoy that purge, and then it's easier to purge. So one thing I want to mention and then I want to show you how I have mine organized, again, just in photo boxes, is that scrap spin is something that you can do when it comes to this great big list of color supplies, because you can't remember. I mean, look how many this is. And this is not an exhaustive list by any means, because when it comes to mixed media, you probably got another 20 products in that category. There's no way you can remember all of this, and there's no way you can use all of this at one time. So I want to recommend scrap spin when you're simply taking a list of your supplies and you're writing them down, and then you just pick a couple numbers at random and you use those supplies. So mixed media could be just one thing that you do for scrap spin. And so you would make a list of all the mixed media items you have, give them a number, and then every time you go to do a project, pick a number. And one time you're going to work with your modeling paste, another time you're going to work with your gelatos, another time you're going to work with your watercolors. So a scrap spin doesn't have to be every product you own. You could do scrap spin with simply just your mixed media items. So I want to make a mention of that, because that's how all of these items are in my brain. It's because they're on that list. There's no way I can remember. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how I have some of mine. Well, basically anything I have of color I'm going to show, because it's not a lot, and I'm just going to show you quickly what I have and how I have them to give a couple ideas, because I will tell you, for me it's all about expense and space, and for me I have bookcases, so photo boxes work really well for me. So when it comes to markers, yours truly, this is my complete marker inventory. Yes, and the skinny ones I use for my Bible journaling. And then I just have some Sharpies, and then of course I have my Wink Stellas. So I just have them all in one of my tool caddy spaces. So that's all the markers I have, because this is just not something I use a lot. There's no sense me having a lot, okay? So then I have, what do we have here? I have some liquid pearls. So the last time I talked about this was in round 1, which was last year, and I have not touched these liquid pearls. I only own 3. I'm glad I only ever bought 3, and so this is going to my purge pile. So I just know I haven't touched them. I think I played with them once and I didn't like them, so it's time for them to go. Bye-bye. All right, so another color supply I have in my space are Nuvo Crystal Drops, and you can see that this is every one that I own. It isn't a ton by any means, and I only prefer the Nuvo Gloss Drops. There are tons of others, but this is just enough for me, because this is a product that I am 50-50. I am 50% in love with them, and I am 50% not in love with them. So at one time I had these in a photo box on one of my bookcases on a shelf, and then I didn't reach for them, and I thought, okay, I need to move these closer because I need to use them or I need to lose them, and I'm in the process of using them. So you know, again, this is very manageable. That's all I have. So this just goes into one of my little cubby holes on my desk. So I will move this to and then the other 2 mixed media products is modeling paste and glimmer mist, and this is all I have as far as mixed media. Now, one thing I want to say about the mixed media category side of things is that a lot of people have an abundance of components when it comes to this, and I see that a lot of people utilize the Rascog cart, and I think it makes sense, because that will hold a lot of this type of product in these smaller containers, and then a photo box fits inside a Rascog, so if you want to contain it a little bit better, a photo box does work. And then you can just wheel that back and forth, so you don't have to keep going for your mixed media supplies individually. You just use that cart as your mixed media center. I think that makes a lot of sense to girls that do it that way. Okay, so the next category I have is, let's just go to inks. As far as ink pads, because this is my ink pads, I have, again, them in photo boxes, and I only have 2 boxes. I have one that is for lights, and then I have a box that's just for darks, and then I have them in the rainbow color, and I have an ink swatch. So an ink swatch, I think, would be level 2 or level 3, that you take your color supplies and you create a catalog, or you could create an ink swatch, however that would be for you. For me, I don't have a catalog of color swatches, because the only swatch I need are for my ink pads. Anything else I don't need a color swatch for. But some people want and need a swatch for all of their markers, all their distress inks, all of their ink pads and all of the different type of nouveau products that are out there. You can spend a month or two just doing your swatches of your color supplies, and I say it's worth every minute you put into it, because I was so glad when I got this done. Now for my swatches, I only did one side. Some people do all four. It depends on how you store them. I just did one and done, and then it does truly make a difference, because what you see on the lid is not what you get, okay? And some people, when they do their ink swatches, you have to pay attention as to what you use that product on. If you use it on black cardstock, then do your swatches on black. If you use craft a lot, do your swatch on craft. I have seen some people be very detailed, that they will take a color swatch, whatever the product is, they will do it on white, ivory, craft, and black. Now that is way beyond level 3, but isn't that really interesting? So that is how I have my ink pads. Again, this is manageable. I only have 2 photo boxes full of ink pads. So the next thing I have, and I just have them stacked over here, let me grab it, is that I have more stickles, and there is a couple overflow of ink pads, my Versamark, and a couple overflow. And this was something I recently, I think I won this or I was gifted this. And there are my embossing patterns, and then, oh, I do have a couple glitter paste. Maybe that would be considered a mixed media product. But I only bought 2 of these, and I'm glad I only ever bought 2, because they're really not my favorite. They really created they were chunky glitter paste. So then I have embossing patterns, and then I have some glitters. So that is what is in this photo box. So if you're like me and you don't have a ton of this, you can divide and conquer, or you can combine and conquer. So in this case, I have more than one product. I have glitter, I have stickles, I have glitter paste, and embossing patterns. So, and that all fits in there. And I will tell you that once this box gets full, and of course I add these overflow of these inks and my stays on, things like that, then there really isn't a lot of room for anything else, and it kind of helps you put the brakes on shopping. So then the next thing I have in a color supply photo box, I'm telling you, I love my photo boxes because they're affordable and they do hold up. They really do. So in this one, I have chalk, my Prima chalk inks, okay, and I just have them put there in. It would be nice if I could see all of them lined up, but these do not stack well. They do not line up well, so they're just in a pile. And then I have a couple of these Tim Holtz things that I don't even really use. And then the rest are paints. Paint, 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 paint. What is this? Oh, there's one lonely little distress ink, and I need to give that to my sister because there's another purge item. I will never use that. You can tell it's still in the cellophane. So as I'm doing this video, I'm doing some purging. So there are my Prima chalk inks. At one time, I really like these. I don't use them a ton, but when I use them, I love them. So they don't take up much space. And I probably should give these to my sister as well. That's another day's decision. Yes. So there is my paints. This is quite heavy, but those are all my paints. Now, if I wanted to do more in the level 3 department of things, I could absolutely test out my paints to see if they're dried up. At one time, I owned every color of Making Memories paints, and I know some of you know exactly what I'm going to say. They all dried up and they didn't work. So one day I had to throw them all away, and then I started buying these Tim Holtz or Ranger paint daubers, and I really like these because of the applicator at the top. Okay, so that is my paints, a couple little overflow. And then my last one, let me see if I can stack this up. If that comes tumbling, I'm going to go cry, is that I have another photo box full of chalks. Okay, let me get this. It's heavy. And this is bigger. Okay, so this is another photo box. And this is where I have my paint supplies as far as my paint brushes, my wedges. And see, there are the ones. There are the ones that didn't make the first cut. But now look. Now these are all dried up. Well, goodness gravy. I guess I'm going to have to purge them. So there are some paper plates. That is a good for a disposable when you put the paint or the any kind of paint or things like that, and you want to, instead of having these and you have to clean them, if you have these small paper plates, you put on your paint and then you just throw it away. And then those are my chalks that I still There's some chalk tools. I have never gotten rid of my chalks. And I just recently thought the other day, I think I'm going to play with these soon. So that is fun. I have never purged them because I only have 3 sets. They really don't take up a lot of room, and I do enjoy them. So hopefully I can break out the chalk soon. But I'm telling you, after I'm done filming, I think I'm going to have to revisit the last half of these making memories. I mean, I love the containers, but yes, I think every one is dried up. So that will be my project for this afternoon. Yes. And then I just have my cosmetic wedges, you know, those little supplies we have. Okay, so that is my color supply for, yeah, so everything basically fit in 4 photo boxes. Truly, that's all I have. And so if you have more, it's one of those things you have to decide. First of all, where do you want to use them? Well, no, let me back up. I would say the first step is, how do you want to organize them? As do you want to have them as a category, a product, or color? And in some cases, it might be a little bit of both. At one time, several years ago, anything that was blue went in a blue photo box. And so whether it was ribbon or flowers or paint or twine or ink or stickles, if it was blue, it all went in one box. If it was red, it went into all one box. And it worked okay for a little bit, but when it came to my color supplies, I had to realize I needed them by category, meaning inks and paints rather than color. Because what I ran into is that when I worked on a layout, I would pull, say if I was working with 3 colors, red, orange, and yellow, I would have to pull out 3 of these boxes. And then I started tripping over photo boxes. So I realized having my color supplies by color did not work for me, which is unusual because I scrap by color. So again, it's one of those things that you have to determine. And sometimes you'll try a system and it doesn't work. That's okay. You just back up and regroup. So what I did was then I tore my color photo boxes down as far as everything that was navy. And so then I put my navy paints in one and chalks and, you know, what I just showed. So sometimes a system you think will work and it end up doesn't. Don't beat yourself up for it. We've all been there. And so this has worked, I think, probably in the last 4 years, having it this way. Because then I realized this is not something I go for a lot. But using that scrap spin list does help when it comes to these color supplies. So then if you're a mixed media gal and you're looking for something as far as organizing, look into photo boxes, because you can just pick these up, take them to your desk, and these do fit in the Rascogs. You can't get 2 side by side, but one does fit in there, and then you would have room for these bigger items. So that would be an option. And then if you have a certain way that you are organizing your color supplies and it's working for you, or if you have a certain way you do your swatches, and if you share that on a blog or Facebook or something like that, please list below, because everybody likes to see how everybody does their process. I'm simply just showing you mine, and it really isn't anything grand. It's just photo boxes and photo boxes and photo boxes. That was the most affordable way for me, and then it fits my space. So that is all I have for week 8 when it comes to all this lovely color. And I will tell you, this is what I find amazing about me and my scrapping style. I love color. I use a lot of color, but when it comes to these color supplies, I don't use them. And I don't know why that is. And I think it's because I prefer to get my color in pattern paper and embellishments. It's not, I don't like the application of color, if that makes sense. So if you are like that, please list below, because that would be interesting to see. Okay, and so let's talk about what's coming up for week 9. Okay, let's see, week 9. Yes, I did have a note here. So for level 3, give a better look at to where you have these, what you have, purge or get rid of or plan. And then also sometimes it is simply moving them closer to your desk. And if you have a lot of this, using that Rascog or an apparatus on wheels really will help you get that closer to your desk. When you're done playing with it, take it away from your desk, because this, I mean, if I had to carry 4 photo boxes all the time back and forth, it gets heavy. So a Rascog would work for that. And then focus on the use. of these products. Use, 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 and that's where that scrap spin comes in. Okay, so for week 9, what do we have? We have embossing folders and embellishments. Oh yes, we got them down pat. We can do that. Yes. So that's all I have for week 8 of this Summer Space Shape Up round 2. If you want the PDF of this, I will have the link below for Deborah's Facebook group. Go over there. If you're not sure how to find it, just ask those lovely ladies and they will help you. So come back soon. We will be doing week 9 and we'll continue to space up. No, how about shape up our space for summer? Absolutely. So come back to RTS. You never know what we're going to do. Bye.